Well, it's been almost 31 years since I've climbed North America's highest mountain, Mount McKinley, at 20,320 feet above sea level. So this is my story of how it went back there when I was a young and dumb 24-year-old climbing with 4 other guys. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, so this is the map we used to climb. The route we took was called the West Buttress route. There's several other routes, but we started at 7,200 feet. You can see the pointer. Went on to the Kahiltna Glacier, up the Kahiltna Glacier on skis pulling sleds. Camped along the way. Had to be careful with crevasses. You wanted to make sure we were roped up. Got to the top of the Kahiltna Glacier at Kahiltna Pass. It's about 10,000 feet, and camped there. From there we decided to make double carries up to Windy Corner. We cached our skis at the top of Kahiltna Pass, and there's the pointer showing double carries. Took us a couple days. And then on up to 14,000 feet where there was a ranger station who took our vital signs, and if we were good, then we went up. We stayed there 5 days. We went up to 16.2, camped, then up to 17.3, camped there, and from there made the summit day, 3,000 foot elevation gain, and came all the way back down to 14,000 feet. Stayed that evening, slept 7 hours, got up the next day, and traveled all the way back down the Kahiltna Glacier all the way down to base camp at 7,200 feet. The total round trip was 32 miles. So it took us a total of 12 days going up, 2 days down, overall 14 days on the mountain. We started our trip on June 18th in Talkeetna, Alaska. We flew out with K2 Aviation. It's about 50 miles to the mountain and about a 25-minute plane ride. Right here you see us crossing the mighty Susitna River on the way to the mountain. There's McKinley straight ahead. You see the prop wash. After flying through a notch in the mountains, we come in view of the mighty Kahiltna Glacier, and you can see it's already starting to melt quite a bit under the summer sun. Our pilot sets up for landing at base camp at 7,200 feet. Once on the ground, it was a big scramble to get all of our gear off of the plane and get it all sorted out. But you have to take time to take care of personal business, and there is not a whole lot of privacy, so you just got to make do. That first day starting out was really bright and surprisingly warm, so layers are the thing, and you got to make sure you protect yourself from the intense solar radiation. Finally, we're ready, so we rope up in teams of 3 and 2 and head down the southeast fork of the Kahiltna Glacier to join the main stream of the Kahiltna off in the distance just below. Out here, everything is big. On the Kahiltna Glacier, it was an 8-mile slog uphill winding in between crevasses to reach Kahiltna Pass. After a couple days, we reached Kahiltna Pass and the view was amazing. We cached our skis, turned right, and headed up on the West Buttress. Here's our camp near an ice fall on the West Buttress at about 11,200 feet. It was from here that we made double carries up to Windy Corner at about 13,300 feet. At this point you're feeling the altitude, and we have to take rest pretty often. After climbing on the mountain for 4 days, we finally reached the ranger station tent at 14,400 feet. The view from here is pretty amazing, and this was going to be our home for the next 5 days. The rangers here
check all climbers for their blood oxygen saturation level to see how well you're acclimatizing and whether you're ready to go on for the summit. Unfortunately, a couple members of our group had low blood oxygen saturation levels and had to descend back down to 11,200 feet to try and acclimatize. But while they were down there, a winter storm blew in and dumped over 4 feet of snow on them, preventing them from returning up the mountain. On the 9th day on the mountain, my buddy Mark and I decided to go for it. We set out to climb the crux, all the way up to 16,200 feet on fixed ropes. After slogging through waist-deep snow for several hours, we finally reached 16,200 feet where we set up our tent. In the still air and intense sun, it easily felt like 80 degrees, but when a cloud blew over, it felt like it was well below freezing, so that always made layering a challenge. That night I didn't sleep too well, getting maybe 2 hours of good sleep. Every time somebody would move, snow on the inside walls of the tent would fall and hit me in the face. But the next morning dawned bright, and we set off for 17,300 feet. Here's the view of the ranger station down at 14,400 feet from our camp up here at 17,300 feet. With the atmospheric pressure less than half of what it is at sea level, I just had a general feeling of yuck and didn't feel like eating much. For that day, the third member of our party, Bob, decided to come all the way up from 14,400 feet and join us at 17,300 feet. He had been waiting down there for our other two companions, but when he realized they weren't able to continue due to weather, he decided to come up the entire way on his own. Next day, our 12th day on the mountain, even though we could see spindrifting up on the top, we decided to go for the summit, so we set up out toward Denali Pass. Every step we took required a full, deep breath to keep up our energy and to keep from getting a headache. But once we made the pass, it offered an inspiring view. When you climb McKinley, there's no guarantee you're going to make the summit. You don't know how your body's going to react to the altitude, and you don't know whether the weather is going to cooperate. But on this day, when we saw the summit in sight, we knew it was going to happen. On the summit of North America's highest mountain, we congratulated ourselves, took pictures, thanked the good Lord, took in the amazing view for hundreds of miles around, and then marveled as a party of 3 58-year-old men came up just before we set out to go down. Hey, who knows? Maybe I can do this again. From the summit, we headed all the way back down to the ranger station at 14,400 feet where we camped, then went all the way back down to base camp at 7,200 feet the next day. Flying off the mountain later that day on July 2nd, I was amazed to see all the exposed rock on the Kahildna Glacier when I looked back. It was a great trip, but I was looking forward to seeing something green.